So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Brexit adding soaring costs in 2022 on UK manufacturers. Now, I read this article through, and there was a bit of optimism from UK manufacturers, which I found odd. I guess if you do work in certain industries, yes, you do have to be optimistic. But I think maybe there's a bit too much optimism. I don't know. I'm very pessimistic, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask. But yeah, so different mic today. Sorry, guys, which is why the audio might come across differently. But manufacturers have warned that Brexit will add to soaring costs facing British industry amid concerns that customs delays and red tapes will rank among the biggest challenges for firms this year. Now, we've already talked previously in another video about how Honda and other companies are facing delays and issues. We spoke about how one company's car parts, I think it was stuck for 4 days in one of the inland sort of checking areas. So not great start so far, and it's only going to pick up really over the next few weeks, and after this month, trade will pick up back to kind of closer to the average of imports for the UK for each month from the EU anyways. So Make UK, the industry body representing 20,000 manufacturing firms of all sizes across the country, said that while optimism among its members has grown, it was being undermined by the after effects of the UK's departure from the EU. Now, we're not doing full physical inspections for certain products, so this is only going to get worse in July. But I'd have to look at the specifics of what is and will not have to be physically checked in closer to July, when they'll talk about it a bit more. So, especially because, companies that are importing products now, they might think, it's not been too bad. But given what Kieran, the van driver, has shown, 8-hour queues and things like that, it's only going to get worse. The only way it's not going to get worse if lorries stop coming to the UK or just starts charging, ridiculous amounts. That's it. I mean, ridiculous not in a mean way, but like way above average for a normal job, for doing the same kind of route per kilometre or per mile. So 1 year on, the end of the transition period, 2/3 of industry company leaders in its survey of 228 firms, should I say, said Brexit had moderately or significantly hampered their business. So you got to think, how could you, if you got 2/3 of these companies surveyed, right, are like Brexit has moderately or significantly hampered their business. How can you be optimistic at that point? More than half of the firms warned they were likely to suffer further damage this year from customs delays due to import checks and changes to product labelling. So you've got to think, especially with next year the UK CA mark coming into effect, it's only going to make things worse. Delays at customs, the additional costs from meeting separate regulatory regimes in the UK and the EU, and reduced access to migrant workers were among the top concerns raised in the survey. So let's break this down, right? Delays at customs and additional costs from meeting different regulatory regimes. Now, we haven't even started deregulating that much, but it looks like companies may be setting up slightly different supply lines even, so making stuff specifically for the UK market and the EU market. That's what that kind of screams to me, because we still do follow EU rules for the most part, so the EU rules aren't really that much different. So what are you guys having issues with there? Reduce access to workers, so that's the end of freedom of movement and the kind of strict visa rules that we've implemented. This is an interesting story as well on the sideline here, just to get distracted for a moment, which is Tory defector says Whips told him to back the PM or lose school funds. Like, this is the situation. This is what I'm going to keep for a later date. Sorry, I get distracted by these sidebar articles, but yeah, that's something I'm going to talk about on a separate day, so subscribe for that. So the warning, not the warning about the school cuts, this is going back to the article about manufacturing, came as other research showed Britain's economy was losing steam at the end of last year as the Omicron variant hit demand for goods and services. So the Centre for Economics and Business Research, Business Optimism and Output Growth fell in December as firms grappled with the fallout from the latest wave of the COVID infection. So that would be the Omicron wave. And let's not forget, it is more mild, but it's also more infectious. So just because you don't end up in hospital doesn't mean that you're not going to end up in, sick for a few days or weeks. A separate survey by IHS Markit and NatWest found that activity dropped in 11 out of the 12 regions of the UK, with a marked loss in momentum in London and the North East slipping into contraction. So you can see here that COVID is still having a big impact on manufacturing. However, this kind of falling out, but was in December before we had even started import checks. So it's going to be important to see in February and March how new import checks have impacted us. Also, sidebar note, I like William Dafoe. He was great in Spider-Man. All the Spider-Man films he was in, phenomenal. So Make UK and PwC said that 3/4 of companies in its senior executive survey expected conditions in manufacturing to improve over the coming year. So this is what I don't get. Okay, what is going to make manufacturing improve over this coming year? Because I did get to the end of the article where they talk about how, in Britain we're going to have to supply more stuff in house. Okay, which is fine. But those factories are going to have to be set up to, in order to make, the smaller parts to manufacture for the bigger things. Say, for example, if we import car wheels from, say, France, right? Now, we're going to have to avoid all the issues with getting them over the French border or into the UK, you're going to make the car wheels in the UK. So you're going to have to set up a separate factory or, source them from somewhere here, which, again, if you could do that, you probably would have done so already, unless you imported them or had them manufactured in another EU country for tax reasons or some other specific reason. Maybe there's an incentive. So how do these guys and gals figure that manufacturing is going to improve over the coming year? We still have a massive staff crisis. That's going to remain. We still have as kind of more imports go over the border, there's going to cause more and more delays. The IT systems still aren't ready. So I don't know how why these people are so optimistic. I don't mean to be mean, but I don't get it. Almost 3/4 of companies say they believed conditions for this sector would improve, with about 73% believing that opportunities outweighed the risks. Well, what opportunities are you talking about? The rest of the world? Like, energy is still soaring? Like, I don't get where the optimism is coming from. Maybe someone in the comments who isn't a rampant Brexiteer or a clown could tell me. That optimism tallied with a separate survey of chief financial officers of the large companies by Deloitte, another accountancy firm. The latest quarterly survey showed that 37% were planning on increasing capital investments in the next year. So maybe they delayed it over the last 2 years because of the pandemic, but they're sort of companies within the UK are planning to increase their investment within their own kind of factories and other manufacturing hubs, which is interesting. More of the companies were considering expansion into new products, services or markets than any time since 2009. So it's kind of odd that they're feeling so optimistic, in spite of the rising costs and the lack of staff. Why would they be investing more now? I don't understand, unless they're getting government subsidies or something. Very odd timing. The Deloitte poll showed that the financial executives believed that Brexit would be a significant negative for UK-EU trade and migration, which it is. Trade is being impacted because we do import checks and the EU do export checks. That's going to already hinder us. There's a separate article I want to talk about where essentially UK trade, UK exports to the EU are going to continue to drop. Because countries like Finland, Luxembourg, Portugal and Greece benefit from Brexit, because instead of having to source their stuff from the UK, they're going to be sourcing it from other EU members, and that allows other EU members, such as these countries, or EEA members should I say, depending on where they're from, to benefit. I think Finland is a full member of the EU though, as far as I'm aware. I think it's just Norway out of the Scandinavian countries that isn't. I could be wrong, which I typically am. But, these countries, Greece is definitely an EU member, Portugal, Luxembourg, these are all EU members. And they're benefiting massively from Brexit because now countries have to do more kind of trade with them to make up for the things that they can't get in the UK. You see Denmark pork production going up and going to Germany rather than them buying British pork, they're buying Denmark's pork. Why? Because they can't source it from the UK anymore. So we're going to talk about this article separately. I've got a lot of stuff to go through, as you can see, but point being is that I don't know where all this optimism is coming from. The Make UK survey showed 2/3 of companies regarding the UK as a competitive location for manufacturing. It could be just for in-house products, so I can't imagine that it's for export reasons, because it doesn't make sense. Unless they mean the UK, talking about Northern Ireland. That's the only thing I can think of, because Northern Ireland has both access to GB and all of the EU, so all of the EEA. That's the only thing I can think of. Northern Ireland could be the only exception here. Around a third of companies in the survey were also looking to reshore their supply chains to rely more on domestic sources. So this is one of the things where I think is a dude from South Africa called the James O'Brien Show, and he said, "Oh, when Africa were under embargoes and things like that because of the apartheid, South Africa had to manufacture some of their own products, which helped them in some ways. But let's not forget, you can't manufacture everything you need." Hitler notoriously had problems manufacturing rubber, so you can't manufacture everything you need. Yes, things have improved since the 1930s, but certain things you still have to import. It's just a way of life. You can't get everything where you live, unless you live in even if you live in the USA, they still have to import a lot of things. So they're planning to reshore following disruption to the international components and materials. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of shifts that we see. How much more is going to be manufactured in the UK. That's going to be quite interesting. Make UK said, despite the challenges in the short term, the shift could represent the possible death of the just-in-time supply chain business model, which it has. For British manufacturing, the just-in-time supply chain model is dead because it doesn't work anymore. It's not just-in-time, it's delayed by hours to days, possibly weeks. That may be a good thing for British manufacturers. It depends, because if you can manufacture the stuff you need in the UK to do everything right, or to do the vast majority of the thing you're making, say a car for example, you can manufacture the doors, the engine, everything in the UK, right? That's fine. What if you can't do that? Or what if you don't have the expertise to do it, the staff? That's where you're going to have huge problems, or huge, as my boy Bernie would say. That may be a good thing for British manufacturers who are now developing ways to ensure that they are more resilient and less exposed to the unforeseen circumstances in future. I mean, sure, it's a good thing in a way, but they're going to struggle to do this, I think, very much in the short term. And how much, in the long term, can they manufacture all the things that they need to make the products they make? Or are they just going to cut certain lines? Again, I don't understand where this optimism is coming from, but if you know more than me, which you probably do, let me know in the comments, and I'll kind of address it as best as I can. But anyways, we're going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.